Once upon a time, far away in a village, surrounded by trees, mountains, lakes and rivers, lived two best friends who have been together since childhood. Famous for her beauty, Nirmala was a girl who had an ambition to go to Eden School, a magnificent school whose whereabouts remained a mystery for the rest of the villagers. On the other hand, a naive and mediocre-looking girl, Lyra was always seen as a bad person for the rest of the villagers, regardless of the good deeds she has done. One day, Nirmala and Lyra went to play on one of the trees in the village. It has always been the place for them to chat, from everyday problems to personal topics. Nirmala told Lyra about her ambition and hope for going to Eden School, and Lyra, as always, gave her best response. It was said that whoever wants to go to the school must go to the woods, and there would be a mysterious carriage to go there. Nirmala always wanted to ask Lyra to come live with her, but the naive girl always refused her offer because she wanted to live a normal and simple life in the village and took care of her grandmother. Lyra then said her goodbye to Nirmala, going to the library to borrow the new book that had just arrived. The girl then heads on to the library, going through a local market. There, the people laughed at her and said words about her. Some said she's a witch and threw a rotten tomato at her. Even when she tried to help a fallen old lady, the old lady pushed her and rejected her help. After a tiring journey, finally she arrived at the library. The place was made of wood, and it has a tree right in front of it and a swing on one of the branches. The girl knocked on the door, and the library owner, Bani, greeted her. It was only him, the only man who never saw her as a bad person.
"I heard the new book came today,"
said Lyra with excitement and walked towards the new bookshelf. Bani chuckled, seeing Lyra's reaction.
"You're the only one who's excited in reading the books in this old library. What are you looking for?"
asked Bani.
The book about herbal medicines that I've been looking for since last month. Is it here?"
Bani then showed Lyra a white-covered book. With excitement, Lyra said to him.
"Wow, it's really here? Thank you. I really love this library."
You know this book is really hard to find? Be grateful and don't lose it. It's the only one in this village.
Lyra nodded, hearing his words.
"I promise. Thank you so much, Mr. Barney. I need to get back home and start reading it."
Always have courage to help others, Lyra.
Later that night, Lyra, who was sleeping due to the tiredness because of reading the book, woke up because of a loud noise coming from the window. She looked around only to find Nirmala knocking loudly, impatient to take Lyra to the woods.
"What's wrong, Nirmala?"
asked Lyra when she opened the window. She looked around and the sky had already turned dark.
"Let's go, come with me,"
said Nirmala while pulling her best friend's arm.
"Here are we going? It's the middle of the night, Nirmala."
"Come on, help me find my favorite necklace, the necklace you gave me for my birthday. I think I lost it in the tree this afternoon after all. It's your fault for leaving me,"
said Nirmala as she still pulled Lyra's arm.
"All right, wait a minute."
Lyra said she took her coat and flashlight. She then came down the window from her room and ran over to Nirmala.
"Come on, hurry."
"Hold up!"
Instead, Nirmala led Lyra to the woods. After passing a specific tree on one of the village's side, Lyra panicked, and immediately she knew that Nirmala was trying to take her to the school of her dreams. Lyra tried to pull her to go back to the village, but suddenly a dragon came towards them and surprised them. The myth that the villagers have been talking about was real, except it was a dragon, not a carriage. In a second, they both rode the horse and flew for around 2 minutes. Then Lyra and Nirmala saw two humongous buildings side by side, divided by a bridge. But unfortunately, the dragon that Nirmala rode flew close to the dark and spooky building. Seeing that, Lyra thought to herself that Nirmala went to Impius school. Suddenly, the dragons dropped them. Nirmala into the river, Stinky River, and Lyra into the crystal clear river. Lyra, who was still shocked, got on her feet and felt her body washed with crystal clear water. It felt so refreshing. Green grasses and wildflowers grow beautifully. Seen in the distance, a magnificent building with huge windows that reflected golden light rays. exactly like the myth everyone has been talking about. But her mind grew restless. On the other side of the bridge, her best friend, Nirmala, was on a whole different situation. Lyra turned around and saw Nirmala in the river across her, trying to get out of the muddy and slimy water. Nirmala screamed as she looked at the people around her.
Oh, what is this? Why am I dropped in this rotten and smelly place?
She shouted as she tried to get out of the muddy river.
Nirmala!
Shouted Lyra, as she heard Nirmala's voice was full of anger and fear.
Lyra, help me.
She shouted angrily. The more she tried to get out, the deeper she drowned in the muddy water. Lyra started to panic. She immediately tried to help Nirmala, but when she tried to come closer, a soft voice could be heard from behind her.
Don't worry, your friend will be all right.
Lyra turned around and saw a beautiful woman wearing a sky blue colored gown. Her eyes reflected the light and her smile lightened up. She stood beside a pavement as if she's waiting for Lyra.
I'm Aurora. I'm a student in this school. Everyone who comes here will be guided by their fate. The place you see there is the school for those who have big ambitions, but cannot see the kindness in their own heart.
She explained as she pointed to the dark and scary building.
And this is the place for those who have a pure heart and do not hope for nothing more than kindness in the world.
She said while pointing to the beautiful and bright building. Lyra immediately seemed confused.
But Nirmala is not like that. She just wants to go to Eden School. She's my friend, and she's a good person.
Aurora smiled softly.
Nirmala's ambition is too high. She forgot the real meaning of kindness. Only time will tell her to change, if she's willing to open her heart.
On the other side, Nirmala kept on screaming and cursing the people around her. She was angry because she was in the muddy and dirty place, far from what she had imagined, a fancy, magnificent place. But the more she got angry, the more she drowned in the muddy water. Lyra couldn't stay silent.
I have to help her, she's my friend. I can't let her get trapped in there.
You can't help her, Lyra. She's the only one who can change her fate.
Lyra watched as her friend tried to get out, feeling sad seeing her like that. Deep down, she felt leaving Nirmala was not a choice.
I have to go. I don't care how difficult it will be.
She said firmly. Aurora shook her head.
No, Lyra, listen to me. You won't be able to go there. You have different fates. Nirmala is filled with big ambitions. It would be hard to change it, if not herself.
Lyra can only watch Nirmala's suffering from the distance,
Nirmala!
shouted Lyra. She tried to shout as loud as possible, hoping her friend would hear her.
Lyra, help me. Get me out of this.
Shouted Nirmala. But all her efforts had no results. Nirmala couldn't even see Lyra. Her head was clouded with emotions. The same for Lyra, she couldn't even hear her friend's frustration. Lyra could only cry seeing her friends suffering.
Enough. Come with me. I'll introduce you to my friends and show you around the school.
Said Aurora. Time skipped, and it has been a week since Lyra set foot on this school. She was starting to adapt to a new lifestyle. The school was more than she had imagined. The building was like a castle and garden filled with flowers, and every day she would learn about taking care of the plants and animals that lived there. She would even learn how to take care of herself. Lyra made a good friendship with Aurora, the girl who guided her from the beginning. She also started to make friends with the other students. Although she was physically in Eden School, she was still worrying about Nirmala.
Are you ready yet? Today we are going to meet with the students from Impius School, and I'm really curious about their personality and character,
said Aurora as she finished getting ready with her light blue gown.
Hurry up, Lyra, I want to sit in the front row,
said Aurora once they've reached the grand hall. They then sat in the front row on the Eden side. In front of them, already present, the students from Impius, dressed in all black and had a scary-looking expression on their faces.
It's them. I'm quite surprised.
Aurora whispered, but Lyra was too busy looking for her best friend, Nirmala.
Hey, who are you looking for? A handsome boy from our school?
Aurora teased.
No, I'm looking for my friend.
and she finally found Nirmala sitting down across from Lyra. But this time her friend seemed so arrogant. Lyra waved to her and she replied with an evil stare.
Hey Lyra, look! Whoa, he is indeed very handsome.
Aurora nudged Lyra, but the girl's gaze just stayed at Nirmala. Nirmala, on the other hand, kept looking at a boy dressed in all white and gold, who was walking in the middle of the hall. It was him who made a couple of Impius and Eden girls scream.
That's Gentala. He's very famous for his looks. Very handsome indeed. But it's quite hard to get close to him. Do you like him too?
Aurora whispered, just to be ignored. Then, a few moments later, the headmaster from both schools came and greeted each other. Both of them later addressed the boys from each school.
Are they really going to have a duel? Aren't we not allowed to use magic?
Asked Lyra.
Only the boys are allowed to use magic here, but on Impius, all of them learn magic. And this is the monthly event of both schools,
said Aurora.
I'm sure Gentala will be the representative for our school this year. He's very handsome, and talented too.
The representative for Eden and Impius are Gentala and Mahesa,
said both headmasters. The crowd turned silent as Gentala and Mahesa walked towards the middle of the duel arena. Gentala, dressed in all white and gold, seemed perfectly calm and confident. Meanwhile, Mahesa, with his long black coat, looked sinisterly at his opponent. Both headmasters gave their signals and the duel began. Mahesa immediately striked with his dark magic, sending a wave of shadows that tried to attack Gentala. Gentala dodged and striked with a ray of light, so bright that it made Mahesa back down. The duel grew intense. Cheers from both crowds filled the hall. In the end, Gentala succeeded in defeating Mahesa with his light, making him vulnerable and finally winning the duel. After the duel, all the students from Eden and Impius gathered in the grand hall to have lunch together. Lyra, with hope, came close to Nirmala, who was sitting on the Impius side of the table.
Nirmala, are you all right?
Asked Lyra softly, hoping to be able to talk to her like they used to be. But Nirmala looked at her full of anger.
Go away. You have taken everything that should be mine,
said Nirmala before she pushed Lyra, making her almost fall from the chair. Gentala caught her.
Are you all right?
He asked worriedly. Lyra nodded, still shocked after what Nirmala just did to her. Gentala then pulled her out of the crowd, giving her some time to calm herself. Since then, Lyra and Gentala's relationship has grown closer. They often spent time together, and Gentala would always be there to protect Lyra, making Nirmala feeling more jealous. From the Black Mirror, Nirmala watched Lyra and Gentala, and her heart grew with anger and hatred.
She took everything away from me. I will put an end to this,
she said with anger. Nirmala, filled with hatred, provoked the students from Impius to attack Eden.
Our magic is stronger than theirs. We don't have to be scared of those who see themselves more pure than us,
said Nirmala to the Impius students. The long-awaited day finally arrived. The grand hall that used to be filled with cheers now became a restless place for duels. Eden's and Impius threw magic at each other. Lyra, standing in the middle of the chaos, suddenly got pulled by Nirmala to a dark room behind the grand hall. There, Nirmala was ready to attack Lyra.
You have taken everything from me,
Nirmala shouted.
This school, Gentala, everything was supposed to be mine.
Lyra didn't fight back. She just stood there, bearing the pain from Nirmala's attacks.
Nirmala, I never wanted to take anything from you. I just want us to be like we used to,
said Lyra with a soft voice. When Nirmala was about to release her attack, Gentala suddenly appeared in between them.
Enough, Nirmala. This is too far.
He could have defeated Nirmala at that very moment, but Lyra stopped him.
No, Gentala.
Lyra said. She then walked towards Nirmala, who was still full of anger. Softly, she tried to hug Nirmala.
Nirmala, I love you as my best friend. I don't want you to get hurt like this.
Nirmala stood still, shocked with Lyra's action. Her anger started to fade, and tears rolled down her face.
I just want everything to go exactly how I imagined they would be.
She whispered, voice full of regret. Lyra shook her head.
I know, Nirmala, but sometimes what we hoped for is not the best for us, and your ambitions made you forget about who you truly are.
Nirmala gave up and let her ambitions and jealousy roll down along with her tears. Lyra looked at Nirmala with a soft gaze.
You don't have to force yourself to be something that's not for you. I will always cherish you, and we don't need a fancy school or magic powers to prove ourselves. Be yourself, Nirmala.
Nirmala looked down, and her tears started to fall to the ground.
I was blind by my own ambitions. I'm scared you would leave me. I'm afraid I'm not good enough.
I would never leave you, Nirmala. You're my best friend, and that's what matters. You're more precious than every school or power in this world. What I really want is to see you happy. We can go back to the village together and start again,
said Lyra softly, hugging Nirmala tighter. Nirmala cried loudly, feeling all her burden slowly lifted off her shoulders.
Forgive me, Lyra. I've hurted you.
Lyra nodded with a smile.
We all made mistakes, Nirmala. What's important is that we learn from our mistakes and try to be better.
Nirmala looked at Lyra.
You're still going to forgive me? After all I've done?
Lyra smiled.
Always. You're my best friend, and I'm sure you'll change.
They both hugged and realized friendship is better than any ambition and power. After that incident, Lyra and Nirmala went back to the village. Although a lot has changed between them, their friendship went back as before, and they would later on learn to appreciate what's really important in their lives.